Now, you know I love freedom of speech because I really believe that you and everyone else has actually the right to say all manner of dumb and offensive things without being dragged before some hurt feelings tribunal. Now, idiot lefties who have not been blessed with the gift of logical thought, they often reply that free speech advocates like myself, what do you want to say that you're not allowed to? Well, if I were the Queensland University of Technology student Alex Wood and I'd been kicked out of a computer lab for not identifying with the correct ancestry, I'd like to be able to write on Facebook. Just got kicked out of the unsigned Indigenous computer room. QUT stopping segregation with segregation. And if I were his mate and fellow room ejectee, Callum Thwaites, and I wrote in response, I wonder where the white supremacist computer lab is, I think I should have that right. But bang! Both were reported to the Human Rights Commission for breaches of Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act by Cindy Pryor. 18C, of course, is the hurt feelings test. Even if what you say is actually accurate, if you hurt someone's feelings, you can be taken to the tribunal. Now, other examples similar to this include the Tasmanian Catholic Archbishop who defended traditional marriage. You know, that outrageous concept that marriage was for men and women only. Well, he was referred to the Anti-Discrimination Commissioner by some transsexual activists for upholding Catholic doctrine. So too was Liberal Senator Claire Chandler. Her thought crime was to say that, and I quote, women's sports, women's toilets and women's change rooms are designed for people of the female sex, women, and should remain that way. Gee, I happen to agree with her, and I suspect most Australians do too. Anyway, it now seems that after decades of being opposed to free speech and vigorously prosecuting any member who transgressed against their sort of vision of what should be said, their ABC has actually done a mighty backflip. Well, that's my interpretation anyway. You see, they were largely silent on Senator Jacquie Lambie's emotional tirade at Qantas staff who prevented her entering the private VIP lounge recently. It supposedly included a particularly pointed reference to Alan Joyce, which would normally send the ABC lovies into a frenzy of critical homophobia theory. Much the same ho-hum response at The Guardian, Nine News and assorted other media organs of the left. I didn't hear too much from Penny Wong or the Greens either. So I'm presuming they're all embracing the free speech agenda because there's no boycotts, there's no strikes, there's no demonstrations or outrage from the usual suspects. But if it was anyone else, the Pravda collective would have been calling for her resignation from the Parliament. Now, for the record, free speech does not mean freedom of consequences, which is why Lambie, to her credit, copped it sweet with a 6-month Qantas ban. And she also tweeted today that she never made the reference to Joyce that some said she did. Qantas have confirmed Lambie's version of events. Now, I'm pleased that she didn't say it, but the hypocritical double standards and slanted coverage of a very newsworthy story is actually very telling. Their ABC doesn't seem to care when it's one of their own or someone that they are notionally sympathetic to. I mean, just recently, a lengthy list of awful tweets, tawdry accusations and rude comments broadcast by their ABC about Liberal MP Nicolle Flint were all met with a polite, no further action letter from the people entrusted internally to be judge and jury. Now, in one instance, you recall we talked about this on the show, in one instance where vile punter Mike Carlton tweeted about strangling the Liberal shill, being Flint, during an episode of Q&A, they actually put that tweet on the screen, and only after Flint's complaint did they clarify that, and I quote, Mr Carlton was not directly inciting violence against yourself. One can only presume they either contacted Mr Carlton himself to clarify this, which I'll point out he hasn't apologised for, or the ABC decided to interpret his late-night tweeting intentions for themselves. Frankly, it's just another pathetic cop-out from the hypocritical moralisers in charge of the most unaccountable media outfit in the country.